I think we'll go ahead and get started with introductions. Hello and welcome to the Indiana Farmers Market Community of Practice webinar. I am Christina Ferroli and I'm hosting the webinar today. Today's webinar is on WIC and Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Incentive Programs. And we have two wonderful speakers who are joining us, Becky Lees and Mindy Duckett, who are Community Wellness Coordinators with Purdue Extension Nutrition Education Program. Becky serves in Marshall and St. Joseph counties, and Mindy serves in Hendricks, Putnam, and Park counties. NEP is funded by two federal funding streams, the SNAP-Ed, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Education Division, and FNEP, which is the Expanded Foods and Nutrition Education Program. The NEP Community Wellness Coordinators work to improve nutrition and health of audiences in limited resource communities statewide by concentrating on NEP's 5 focus areas: diet quality, physical activity, food security, food safety, and food resource management. Together with their community partners, they work to make policy systems and environmental changes that support healthy food and physical activity access. Our goal is to make the healthy choice the easy choice. So I will turn it over to Becky and Mindy. And just a quick reminder, please remain muted throughout the presentation. If you have questions, type them into the chat whenever they come up, and we will do a Q&A at the end of the webinar or at the end of the presentation.
All right, well, thank you very much. We appreciate being invited to come here and talk with you about our Farmers Market Nutrition Program incentive programs that we've created in our counties. As Christina said, I'm Mindy Duckett, and I am with Hendricks, Putnam, and Park counties, and Becky is in Marshall and St. Joseph's counties. Let me see, I'm trying to get my,
Okay.
Go ahead, Becky.
Thank you, Mindy. And thank you to Christina for having us on today, and the Farmers Market Community of Practice for just allowing this space for us to all share and brainstorm. You're not alone and we're not alone. And so I love that we can all share what we're doing and make a healthier Indiana for everyone. So our first slide talks about a recipe. So we put together a recipe for success for a farmers market nutrition program. So we're going to add partners, we're going to add funding, we're going to add sustainability, mix it all together, and create a healthier community and stronger farmers market. So I'm just going to talk a little bit why you would want to do this at your farmers market. So we may have markets on here that have thought about doing it, or maybe never have, but are interested and been hearing about it. We may have markets that want to expand the program. So just a little history, the emergence of these healthy food incentive programs started at farmers markets. And they provide access to healthy, fresh produce to both our urban and rural communities. So these produce incentive models are often called a win-win-win, and you'll hear them call as a triple win because it increases fruits and vegetable consumption of low-income families. It's a win for our families. It supports local farmers. It's a win for our farmers. And it creates vibrant farmers markets by keeping more of the food dollars local, which creates a win for our communities. The Double Up Bucks program began in 5 pilot farmers market in Detroit, so not too far from us, in 2009. And it is now over in 25 states. So it started off as a pilot program and now is in 25 states. And a lot of their support comes from the not-for-profit Fair Food Network. So 25 states have implemented a statewide nutrition incentive program like we're going to talk about today, but Indiana's not one of them. So we have to, community by community, come together and start these programs at the local level And maybe then we can get movement to bring in this kind of model at a statewide level for Indiana. Okay, so next, thank you. We're going to briefly talk about the requirements to become an FMNP market, but there is a great YouTube link on the Community of Farmers Market Practice. Christina, I looked it up. This is your YouTube channel. Last month was all about how to sign up to be an FMNP market vendor and sign up to accept WIC. So we're not going to go over the program logistics for that, just briefly. And there's a link to go back and listen to the experts on that. So when you become an FMNP grower or market, it's valid for 3 seasons before you have to renew. Growers must grow at least 51% of the produce they sell during the season and live in Indiana or a bordering county of a neighboring states. For our counties closer to other states, farmers can come in and be a part of the Indiana Farmers Market Check Program. So our markets, we need to be a market, you need to have a market master, a manager, a coordinator that's going to be responsible for managing the market and communicating with the state agency. They will go through training as well. Your market needs to have a minimum of 3 produce growers who are WIC approved or willing to become WIC approved. And then you need to have some sort of date and hours of operation at a permanent locations, because the state comes around and can make visits as part of what's mandatory for this program. And you need to be in existence 2 market seasons. Those are the rules, and the state contact for that is Legita Wilson. And I put Legita's email address, and that she would be the main contact to become a WIC approved vendor or market. Okay, thank you. So the first ingredient is our partners. We can't stress enough how this is a collaboration, and it can't just be one person. It's definitely a mix of partners. So we're gonna talk about our partners, our WIC offices, our Agency on Aging, the farmers market, and the vendors that are WIC, our farmers market nutrition program approved, Purdue Extension offices, and your local coalitions. I want to thank all the partners that are on this webinar right now. I see you on here, my partners in our counties. So I see our WIC offices on here, Real Services, Extension Office, our local markets and vendors. So thank you. You know who you are. Thank you to all the partners that have made it successful in our counties. So here is a current map of the WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program offices that are distributing the checks. So this is the map for 2021. So you would want to go and find your local WIC office. If you don't already have a contact, there's a website I'm going to show you that you can find them. So you're going to have to get in touch with your WIC office. The next program you're going to have to get in touch with is your area on agency, your Agency on Aging. Sorry, I'm finding the link to drop in. So these areas, Agency on Aging, are listed here, and a lot of them cover multiple counties. So you're going to want to find your contact at the senior, they distribute the senior checks. So WIC agencies distribute the WIC checks, the senior agencies distribute the senior checks. Okay, thank you. I'm going to drop in the chat where you can find all this information. So it's on the Indiana WIC's Farmers Market Nutrition Program website. Also on this website, this is how you're going to be able to find out if your market in your county is WIC approved, WIC senior approved. So under the forms, you're going to see a vendor application, and at the end of the vendor application, you're going to see all the markets in all the counties that are already approved. There could have been new markets added. They had to get added by last month, so there could be a couple more, but this is pretty a good list on where to start. If not, you can ask Legita. And there's a website in the link in the chat, and then also the generic email for Legita and all this program. So the farmers, if you do have farmers that want to get added and you're already a WIC senior approved market, they have through September to add more vendors, but to become a approved market that passed in April. So what you would want to do is start planning now to become approved market for next season. Okay, I covered everything there. So extensions. Mindy and I work for Purdue Extension, and the good news is that there is a Purdue Extension office in all 92 counties. So if you don't already know your extension office, they are definitely a good person to contact, because they have links to the agencies we talked about, the farmers markets. They're sitting on coalitions, and they know a lot of community partners. There's educators that specialize in health and ag. There's also community wellness coordinators like Mindy and I. So the best way to get a hold of your extension office, if you don't already know them, is on our extension webpage, which I'm going to put in our chat. So there you're going to be able to find your county and quickly be able to pull up your educators and community wellness coordinators. Okay, the last partner we're going to talk about is coalitions. So we just came up with a list of coalitions. The ones that have the most, I would say, connections to this type of program are going to be your health coalition, your local food coalitions, early childhood, and senior related coalitions. So this list is just to get you thinking about what coalitions are in your area. So for example, in the Market Bucks program up in St. Joseph County, we work with our St. Joseph County Food Access Council. In Marshall County, we have a Marshall County Food Council. And these coalitions are a great way to meet partners. They can provide technical assistance on grants. They can be a 501c3. So for this program, you're going to need a fiscal agent or a fiscal sponsor. So it's a great way to meet other organizations that may be able to be that for this program. And they can also help find funding. For example, in our county, United Way of St. Joseph County is our fiscal sponsor up here. And I believe, Mindy, yours is a hospital system?
Yes, IU
Yeah.
Health.
So just a few examples. So definitely be thinking about how you can reach out to coalitions to help you with this program.
Okay, so the big question is, we have all these great ideas, but where do I get the money to do this? Isn't that the question we always have to ask? So there is a link here on our screen, and Becky, are you able to drop that link into the chat as well? So we wanted to just get a little interaction from you, and you know, whenever we do these webinars, it's always an opportunity for us to learn things from other people as well. And so if you want to go to the Jamboard, that the link that we have here, you can participate with us, or I'm going to go ahead and pull this up on the screen. So if you are joining by phone, or you're not able to interact with us with the Jamboard, then you can still at least see what's being added. So our first question that we've asked is, what funding sources can you think of for your community? And so for those of you who don't know how to use Jamboard, if you come right over here to this T, this box that has a T in it, if you click on it, you will get, or I'm sorry, wrong one. You're going to come over here to this box, the sticky note, then you can just type in whatever you want. You can save it, and then it will show up on our screen here. So, oh, I think we lost. So who can you think of for funding? I think we lost our little thing, but that's all right. And think outside of the box. Okay, so I see on here Duke Energy, and I would also recommend that not everyone has Duke. Duke is a great resource. We'll put REMC up here with that as well. Many of the utility companies and banks, even though food security may not be what they typically work in, they are big proponents of helping their communities grow and be better. And so they're always great opportunities. We have community foundations, the Chamber of Commerce, town councils, USDA. The USDA is go big, and sometimes it requires a bigger region or a statewide opportunity. But depending on, if you're a real rural community, it's probably a little bigger than what you would be able to handle. But again, you can join together, create coalitions and do something regional. Bigger communities, more urban communities may find a USDA grant more appropriate. Hospital is on here. That's what we use. Hospitals are actually a great resource in our community. Part of their CHENA, which is their 3-year assessment, they come up with community needs that they have to work on. And so food insecurity has been part of our CHENA here. And so they love to partner with us because we're doing all of the work to help them achieve some of their goals. So be sure and look at that. There are other kinds of grants out there that might be a little more, I don't want to say generic, but perhaps something that can apply for what you're hoping to do. Farm Bureau is another great supporter of farmers markets in general. And so this may fit in with what they are looking to do as well. So let me go back over here. So what we recommend with funding is to start local first. People are most interested in helping their own community. So look for community benefit dollars, things that are from the community that are going to benefit the community. It allows companies to put their name on something. Be sure to include their logos and things like that on all of your marketing to help them out as well. Community foundations can also be a great resource, and I work with community foundations in all 3 of my communities. Even if they don't have the direct funding for the program, they know what's happening in the community. And so they may be able to connect you with someone who's looking to make a difference in food security in the community, and they might be able to connect you together for funding. You can also look at private foundations. Again, several of our banks and our hospitals around here have their own foundations that are able to do some funding as well. And then looking at grants such as banks, local government, and things like that. So I want to oh, darn it. Sorry about that. I want to jump back over to Jamboard, and we want to go to our next question, which is, what barriers might you need to overcome to create this program at your own market? And so I like to think of barriers not as barriers that keep you from doing something. Doesn't mean it's completely blocking the road, but it helps you map out where you're going. So if you know that something is going to be a barrier or possibly be a barrier, you can build in, as you're planning your program ahead of time, how to address that barrier. So it doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means it helps dictate your plan ahead of time. So what can you think of that might be barriers to creating this in your market? Fiscal agent, that's huge. So getting the farmers certified, whoever wrote that, do you think that that is just convincing them to be part of the program? And feel free to unmute if you're the one who put that in.
That was me. I just meant it as like some people may need additional help or support getting through that process. If they don't have internet or if they're not familiar with it, or one of the things I found most of the time, people are working off their phones and applying for things off of their phones, and that makes it more difficult for them.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's where, I know for Becky and I, we've done a lot with trying to help get the farmers and the vendors signed up for this. Sometimes I hear oftentimes that I just don't have time to do that. This is my busy season and things like that. And showing them that, first of all, it's a very simple, short application that can be filled out. Easiest to do it online, but I believe you can still mail them in if you need to. I have certainly taken people's paper forms, had them fill them out on paper, give them to me. I'll scan them and send them to Legita to be able to help out. I know community wellness coordinators in every community, I feel very confident would be willing to do that. One of the things that I've also done to help convince farmers that they even want to be part of this is to find out how many checks are actually coming into your community, and then being able to tell them, there's a potential of $4,000 to come into our markets, and don't you want to be part of that $4,000 or whatever it might be. So that definitely goes with the barriers for the farmers market, for the farmers and vendors. The fiscal agent, I will go ahead and talk about that. I know we have some places a little bit farther on down here in sustainability. As I was telling Christina today, I often tell people that finding money is not the hard part of any of our projects. It's finding a fiscal agent who is willing to accept the money. And that is a hard sell sometimes. I can tell you that for our markets, for our program in Hendricks County, we actually have a somewhat unusual partner. So we have a group here in Hendricks County called Kids Summer Lunch Bunch. And they're actually a group of volunteers who help provide lunches to kids. It was really important before our schools began serving summer lunches many years ago. And so they have businesses and agencies that will provide lunch one time during the summer at a location that is a place where children would tend to congregate. So a big one for us is in Danville at our park. And so a bank would sign up and they would bring lunch on one of the Tuesdays during the summer or something. So this group, their goal is to make sure that kids have food to eat. And I've worked with them on other projects. And so as I was talking to them about this and we were trying to find a fiscal agent, they said, yeah, we'll do it. So they actually were able to open a charity checking account at a local bank. So worked with a local bank who wanted to help with the community. We had this group, we used their 501c3 and they opened the account. And so really the only activity on our account is we put the check in when our funding comes in, and then all of the checks are then withdrawn from that one account. So we had an unusual partner. So think outside of the box. Think of someone who, even though they may not have something to do with farmers markets, but maybe they have something to do with food insecurity or just working with limited resource individuals or something like that. So think outside of the box when it comes to a fiscal agent. Evaluation, we are going to talk about that here in a little while, and utilization, we will talk about that as well. So let me go back to our PowerPoint. Okay, so the potential barriers would be funding, which we've already talked about some ideas, vendor and market participation. So you do have to get the vendors to participate, but you also have to get the market to participate. So even as a vendor, if you want to participate in this program, you have to be at certified markets. And so you have to get the markets to be part of this. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we use pre-printed checks and that has helped us with some market participation. Connecting with partners, it takes time to be able to do that. It's not something that you can say, our market opens next Wednesday, so let's throw this together. It is going to take time explaining to them why this program is good for the community, what it's going to do, you know, what you plan for your goals to be and things like that. And then getting clients to use the checks. So Becky and I both have programs where we use checks, and I'm going to get to that in our next slide to show you, but actually getting people to use the funds. So taking the FNMP checks and then our incentive checks and actually taking them to the market and being able to use that. So sometimes things like transportation, childcare, just the stigma of using these checks in public may prevent some people from using it. Oftentimes we find that people they got their checks on June 10th and they go directly to the farmer's market and they want to buy tomatoes and sweet corn. They're not going to find that at the market, and they don't understand or just don't realize that those things aren't in season. So they get there and all they're seeing are a bunch of greens, and you know, my kids don't want to eat greens. They want to eat sweet corn or watermelon or things like that. And so then they just think the market this must not be a good market. And then they don't go back later on. And then just knowing how to prepare some of the produce, that can be a hindrance as well. So on the logistics side of things, what we chose to do.
Real quick, Mindy.
Oh.
Just so they can see the checks, you're in presenter mode. And so
sorry.
if you share the regular slideshow, it may come up
Bigger.
Sorry about that.
So maybe just, yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
Perfect.
so we could do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
So one of the barriers is getting the markets to participate. So I live in Danville in Hendricks County, and our market is a Saturday market. It is sponsored by the chamber, and the chamber does not send someone on staff to be at the farmer's market. It's actually a vendor who is the market master for the day, who coordinates everything that happens there. He has one of the busiest booths at the market, and he is not capable of having the ability to be able to hand out tokens or things like that. So what we found with our WIC program is that we created checks that mimic the FNMP checks that they're already getting through the WIC and the senior program. And so you can see on this check here, it's specific for Hendricks County. Our program is called Double Up Produce. That has our local bank on there, but this is the almost exact template that is used by the FNMP checks. So the reason why we wanted to do this was we wanted, first of all, to not be confusing to, I'm going to say WIC clients. When I say WIC, I also mean seniors, but so I don't have to keep saying WIC and seniors. We'll use WIC as the generalization, but so this is, we wanted them, once they know how to use one check, we want them to know how to use both checks. We also didn't want this to be confusing and taxing on our vendors as well. So if they already know how to accept FNMP checks, then they know how to accept ours as well. And we allowed IDOH to do all the vetting and things with our vendors, because if Legita has already accepted them, then that's good enough for us, and we will accept them as well. So they actually put their stamp on here just like they would with the FNMP checks. So the difference in these is they may be a little bit different color, they may be slightly different size, and the amount that the check is worth may be a different amount, but for the most part, the system is all used exactly the same. Now we know that, you know, they're all coming from different accounts when they're deposited, but ultimately the users, the vendors, and the clients don't really know much difference in how this is used. And then on the back, then they will just sign it. So these checks can be taken directly to the bank and deposited. The one thing about this program is it is a little pricey up front. So for those of you who are interested in doing checks with your programs. Becky and I both use Deluxe checks. And so I'll just throw that name out. They don't have to be the only ones, but I can tell you it took me a little bit of time to explain what I wanted in a check, because this is not something that they typically do. But if you go to Deluxe Checks and tell them you want to do checks, you can always have them look up our accounts, and they can look at our templates, and at least they will know what you're talking about. And so, I just have to go in each year and change the dates, if the amount has changed depending on our funding, and the check number and things like that. So that is the easiest way for us to do this, because that is our selling point to the markets, is if you just fill out that application every 3 years, you never have to do another thing to have this program at your markets. And it's a way to bring in extra funds for our vendors. So then next to that, you could see the Market Bucks program. And this was something that was created by Becky's group. And it just gives a quick overview of how to use your Market Bucks, they have to be used on fresh fruits and vegetables. They can't be used on eggs or honey or things like that. How to redeem them. And then it has the local sponsors on there as well.
Hey, Mindy, do you mind going back to the checks real quick? I'm just gonna go over a few things that we did. We can dive into logistics later on in question and answers. So there is a lot of ways to run this program. And so you're gonna wanna think about what makes sense for your market, what makes sense for your community. So we use a check model, but there are other programs that can use tokens. That's similar to the SNAP Double Up, which you're going to hear about, I believe, next month with Michelle. So watch out for that webinar for the next one. Some markets use market money, market cash, market gift cards. So if the checking account, don't let the checking account kind of make you nervous and make this seem really overwhelming. In the end, it is easier because you don't have to have that middle person at the market converting tokens into cash, and the vendors get their money real time. And then there's really no extra staff that's needed, but there are other ways to do that. So I wanted to point out program name. So you're really going to want to be intentional in your program name. In Hendricks County, they called it the Double Up Produce Program. Up here in St. Joseph, Marshall County, we're calling it the Market Bucks Program. So just find a name that fits what your community wants to do. Some communities may not be able to double up. Maybe they're just adding one extra check. So with clients get $24 and then senior clients get $20. So maybe you can't double up, but you can just add one additional check. So then also the check value may change because seniors checks are worth in $5 increments and WIC is $8 increments. So you're just gonna wanna, that's where working with your partners is so important, because they'll be able to tell you what, those little differences in the checks. So up here, we make our colors to match exactly the WIC and senior colors, which are two different colors and they change every year. So that way clients really don't even know they're getting two different checks, and the vendors don't even know. Also, it's important, we feel, to put the state checks in front of the incentive checks. That's important, and our WIC office is the one who kind of reminded this of us, that we want, if the clients are going to spend their checks, the order we want them to spend them is state first, because that redemption rate at the state is what determines funding for the next year. So yes, we want them to spend both checks, but it's very important, if they're going to spend one or the other, spend that state check first. So we just put them, they just distribute them that way where they're behind. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. No cash back. So just like the FMNP checks, they're not going to get cash back. We distribute them at the same time as the state check. So the offices the WIC and senior offices will give them at the same time, just make it really simple. They don't have to come in twice. And aligning seasons. So you're going to see the first and last day to use is just the same as the WIC and senior seasons. So just aligning them. Up here in Northern Indiana, you can use checks starting, I believe, June 1st, but they may wait till June 15th or the end of June because just more produce is in season up here in Northern Indiana, where Southern Indiana, I'm hearing, is like already having good produce come out. So just a couple of things to think about, and we'll definitely talk about logistics.
Yeah, I mean, most rank and file House Republicans are silent here as well, but there are a few.
So, thank you, Mindy. Just
Yep.
wanted to cover some of those logistics.
Yeah, and again, that's why, you know, we do the checks, the WIC office as a partner. You know, we just give the checks to them and they're the ones who distribute it. Same thing with our seniors. We do it through our
Jamie
senior
Coltrane's
services
comments
here
on
as well.
lunacy, and Adam Kinzinger said it was calling it, quote, absolute sickness.
All
Peter
right.
Meyer
Hello.
said,
Just a quick reminder to remain muted. Thank you.
Okay, so our third ingredient is sustainability, and this came up as a barrier. And it definitely, you know, you really have to think about evaluation at the beginning so it doesn't become a barrier. You have to think about sustainability at the beginning so you can work through possible issues. So we feel that evaluation needs to happen at the beginning, and there's planning for it. So you know what problems may occur or what you're gonna do to show your funders that it works, that this program works. So ultimately, we want to increase participation in this program at both the state level and the incentive level. So different ways that you can build an evaluation into your grant and into your program is redemption rates. So at the end of the market season from Legita, she will put out redemption rates for the state checks. I think it comes in before the end of the year, but it normally takes till December just to get all the checks to come in from the vendors. And then you're also going to be able to see how many of your incentive checks or tokens was redeemed. So those are two different kind of checking accounts, but you're going to be able to use both of them when you evaluate. And Mindy pointed out, I really like to think of it this way, because she said, well, let's say your redemption rate for WIC and seniors redeems like the maybe 5 or 10% more checks get redeemed than the previous year. Well, you also have to assume that those clients is more than a 5 to 10% increase in produce consumption because they're getting double the produce. So you can look at redemption rates, but it's important to also look at other factors. So household participation. So on the redemption rate report, you're going to be able to see how many checks and how many households that this was able to reach. And that you can see that by having a double check, or it gives the clients more incentive to go to the market. So it doubles their purchasing power. It just helps them feel like, well, I'm going to make a trip, then I can actually buy twice as much in one trip. So you can also do surveying. So our local WIC office did surveys on produce consumption, knowledge gained. So definitely asking the clients if they enjoyed having the program, what they would want, maybe in terms of more education. So I think building in an education piece is someplace that we would like to expand. So the clients not only get the produce, but maybe while they're there, we have taste testing. We have cooking classes. They learn a technique to prepare the different foods. And so I think it's important to build in an education component. Also, we can look at increased participation in the FMMP program. So we can see that we got more markets in this county to sign on because this program was available. We got more vendors at this market to sign on because now they're going to be getting double the possible checks coming in. So it's just a financial incentive. So you can also evaluate that. And then qualitative data. getting the firsthand stories from the families and the seniors. That's very powerful. We take lots of pictures. This is a quote from WIC supervisor, St. Joseph County, who's on today. So thank you. WIC clients love the farmers market program. They were shocked to find out that the matching grant awarded our county twice as much as most other WIC counties. They tried new things and would often use one set and come back the same day for the next set for the next family member. So it's just really powerful to use those stories. Also, one thing we did talk about is not on this slide, but we did talk about increasing participation in the SNAP program and SNAP doubling up. So that's also something you can evaluate. And again, we'll be on the webinar next month, but it would be really nice if the farmers market were kind of a one-stop shop for all these programs. You are a market that accepts WIC. You're a market that takes the senior checks. Then you can have the market that is also a SNAP market and the doubling programs. So it would be unfortunate if we had a market that only accepted SNAP but not the WIC, and then the WIC market accepted WIC but not SNAP. And so now the client's having to drive around and navigate the system. It would be really nice for these kind of programs to be a part of a one-stop shopping experience for the client. Thank you.
So some of the things that you can do, because you put all this time and energy into coming up with the program, finding your partners, finding your funding and things like that. And then how do you get the word out to the community? And so here are a couple of flyers that we created in Hendricks County. The first two are actually a front and a back. So we had a two-sided flyer, spread things out a little bit more. Both flyers include just 3 easy steps of how to use the FNMP and the Double Up programs at the markets. And so, they have to enroll. So they either have to be part of the senior program or the WIC program, and then they just have to visit the markets, and we listed which markets are available for them, and then just to redeem it, and reminding them that it has to be fresh fruits and vegetables. We also included the markets, so where the markets are located, when they're open, and the hours, because sometimes just finding, having to go online to find out where this information is at, to have it all right there in one place. And then, of course, we wanted to be sure and talk about our funders. And so the sponsors' logos are listed on there. You can see that the first several years, we actually had 2 hospitals that, they were not in competition with each other, but they were both supporting this program as well. And so these were flyers that we were able to print and put in food pantries, share them with other agencies of people who, agencies that might serve families or seniors to get the information out. We also took them and put them on little postcards that were like 4 to a page. Those were really popular to hand out at our pantries and things like that, and just encouraging them to go back to WIC and senior services for some additional services as well. And then there's an education piece that can be really important too. So here are some pictures from Becky's programs. The first one, you could see they had free kids cooking classes. And, with the farmers market is you have the people who come in, they have their reusable bags. They are in and out of the market in 15 minutes flat because they know exactly where they want to go and what they want to get. But there's also a whole nother audience for the farmers markets that may not know exactly what they want or how to use it or things like that. And getting kids involved in the whole cooking process. I'm thinking with my boys when they were younger, we saw, the last several years, a lot of purple potatoes at the markets. If I would have made those, they probably would have never eaten them because that's not what potatoes look like. But you know what? If they went to the market and they got to pick them out and they knew how to make them and they started helping me make them, they would have been, this is cool. We get to eat purple potatoes. So just involving the kids, and while you're teaching the kids, mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or caregivers are standing standing behind them and they're learning something as well. And that removes that stigma as well of saying, I don't even know what to do with zucchini other than to make zucchini bread. While the kid is learning, mom and dad and caregivers are learning as well. There's also an education component to just educating the market masters and the vendors on what the program is, how it works, and just understanding the program so they feel comfortable using the program as well. And then a shout out to Purdue Extension's Food Link. It is a website that you can go. This is a really neat chart that they have that tells you when things are in season. So if you're really wanting lettuce, it shows you that you shouldn't go in August and September to get lettuce because those are not good months for lettuce, but it shows you the good and the best times to be able to go and pick up things so that I need to use my check during this month if this is what I really want to use my checks for. So these are all great educational pieces, and you can come up with lots more. We've done taste testing at the markets with things that are in season. And again, going back to Food Link, they have recipes on there. So if you're not quite sure what else to do with zucchini, you can go on there and you can get recipes. It also tells you what is a good zucchini, that it should be firm and it should be this color and gives you some other ideas so that you can pick out the best produce at the market as well. And then, was this you or me, Becky?
I was just going to go through these real quick. So I'm going to go through some examples, but we also want to leave time for questions. So you will get copies of these slides of the PowerPoint. And also we are always willing to give our examples. Let's not reinvent the wheel. I used Mindy's check template. She so graciously gave me theirs so I could show the bank here. So we could share what we're doing. Mindy and I talked, we want to share. We want this to become kind of a branded look across the state so we can move towards that statewide push for Indiana. So these are some examples. We really feel that distribution at the market has really increased participation rates. And so while COVID did throw a wrench in last season, and it is hard this year with our senior clients to maybe distribute at the market versus mail, but the WIC distributions has been very successful. So this is an example of a banner that was put in the farmers market saying that the market buck checks are accepted here. Also as an example, that WIC office actually has a designated booth at the South Bend Farmers Market, which is great because then the clients know where they're at. They will use social media to advertise that they're going to be at the market. When they're there, they use Facebook Live videos showing the clients all the produce that's available. So having that place that clients can go at the market has been really successful. So clients can go and pick up a check. They're seeing a friendly face. So this is their first time to a market, but they're seeing their staff that they know. They can ask questions. Staff. They can ask a WIC staff to go and maybe take a tour if there's time. So it's just really nice. It's just a really nice way to combine picking up the checks with the shopping experience. Now there could be clinic distributions as well, or like real services. The senior agencies may need to mail the checks, but it is just nice if you can encourage any type that staff from these agencies can be at the market. And I also wanted to show you kind of a unique map that was created up here. So our whole goal was to make clients feel comfortable at the market spending their checks, and that is a dignifying experience. And what would be worse than going someplace new, you're uncomfortable and you don't know where to go? That is something that we want to break down that barrier. And so by creating these vendor maps at some examples are our Mishawaka Farmers Market and South Bend Farmers Market. These were posted at the markets. They were posted on social media. They're handed out to clients. And so they knew exactly when they went in there which vendor they could go to. Even though the vendors are required to post a sign, sometimes those signs are hard to find. And it's just another way that we can help make clients comfortable. If you can see the Mishawaka Farmers Market, booth 39, it shows exactly where WIC's gonna be. So those are some examples of ways to help your clients feel more comfortable finding where to use the checks at the market.
And then the last thing that we have here is just, this is an example of a postcard that our WIC office sends out at the end when it's getting near the end of the farmers market season. And so what we find is that people take the checks, they're really excited about spending them, and then life happens. And before you know it, the farmers markets are coming to an end. So in Hendricks County, our markets end fairly early, earlier than I would expect farmers markets to end. And it has a lot to do with school starting, and they find that, the attendance drops after school starts. And so a lot of them tend to stop end of August to middle of September. And so we created these cards that just reminded them, hey, don't forget to go and spend your checks. And then we also just put the markets and their last day that they would be open, so people would remember to go and spend them. And so these can be filled out by the WIC office staff, or sometimes they will have the clients, as they take their checks, fill out the address. So all they have to do is stick it in the mail. So that's a great reminder as well. And so we just want to say thank you. We hope that the conversation continues. As Becky said, she and I are always willing to get you connected with community wellness coordinators in your community, and then work with all of you to help replicate this program. It's not a one size fits all, even though Becky used some of the things from our program. She also created her own program and made it fit for her community so that it would work and be good for them.
Well, thank you, Mindy and Becky. We do have a little bit of time for Q&A. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. There were several questions earlier on. They had to do about veggie plants, if you're able to purchase veggie plants or edible herbs. Becky said yes to edible herbs at the market. One person asked, can our market get approved for the Hendricks County Double Up program? They're in North Salem.
I'll get with you, Christy, and we will we'll have that discussion.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that was me.
Yes, she's going to reach out to walk you through the program and the steps. There was a question, if anybody's from, well, Becky maybe would be able to answer. Are Double Up bucks for St. Joe already printed and sent to Rio?
Yes, so I reached out to our South Bend people on the call, and we'll be working with them. So, and that is a great question. Who prints the checks? So in our program, our fiscal agent actually prints the checks in their checking account, but then I will take the checks and divvy them up to like the different WIC and Real Services office. So using checks it definitely takes partnerships, because I kind of, we got to get the checks printed and to the agencies. And that's, as a community wellness coordinator, that's part of the role. That's part of why Mindy and I are here to help. Like, that's where we can come in and partner, is to kind of help make sure things get where they're going, make sure banners get printed, flyers get printed. That's where the agencies aren't alone, and the market manager's not alone doing this.
So just to piggyback on what you were sharing, Becky, do you have sponsorship level for funders? So like, how do you get the posters printed? Is it like you get the money for the checks, and then do they contribute extra money for the posters at market, or do you have different funders that provide different levels of sponsorship?
So Mindy and I's program are different. So in the program up here, we have a anonymous local foundation that is our funder. It's a business foundation, and we write one grant and build into the budget check cost. we build marketing cost, and then the cost of the checks and an admin fee. So those are type of like nuances as you get into this. Definitely, you know, we have budgets, templates already created. We have narratives and goals. So there's definitely a lot that's already been done, and we would love to be able to help others walk through that step. Mindy, you do have different funders pulled into one program.
So we had two, originally we had two hospitals. Our second hospital is not a funder this year because their funding went into COVID things. And so they're not funding outside. One of my hospitals said, use the money for whatever you need it for the program. The other hospital said, we only want our funding to go actually into the checks. You know, we want it to be money. And so between the two, we were able to create our budget and cover all of those costs. You know, we don't spend as much on marketing as we did in the beginning because the agencies and some of the others that we work with understand the program now. So we don't have to do quite as much marketing that we used to. And so we're able to put more money back into the checks. The checks that I had on there were actually $3. Those were last year. We increased them to $5 this year and are doing a little bit fewer checks, but they're still getting the same amount or more money that they have gotten in the past.
And we have a question. Can one farmer in the market take WIC even if the overall market is not signed up for the program?
No, the market has to be certified first. And then in order for them to be certified, there have to be 3 vendors who also apply and are accepted as well. So we have some vendors that go to multiple markets. So if your market is, if one market is certified and you're able to accept WIC checks there, you can. But if you then go to another market and they are not certified, you cannot accept the WIC checks there.
And then what happens if our approved WIC vendors miss a week? Will the market be penalized?
No, they build in 3 vendors. They're not checked every single week as long as they, you know, if they're on vacation or something, then you're not penalized for that. But they do expect them to be there majority of the time.
Okay, thank you.
I think if anybody has any other questions, we're just almost at 1 o'clock.
I have one more. I'm sorry. I was going to type it, but I figure I'd rush on here. So North Salem, I'm the market master. We have 3 vendors, and with our spring being so weird, do we still set up our WIC forms if they actually don't have produce? Like myself, half my asparagus is gone this year. And I know 2 of the other vendors will have produce, but I will not have anything this Thursday as you have. So do you not put your WIC stuff at because you're kind of being dishonest in a way, but yet I will have stuff later.
I'll connect with you and we can we can talk about that. That would actually be a Legita question. She would have to be able to say yes or no. So we'll get her involved in the conversation. I think I know what the answer will be, but that's not my job. So I don't want to give you that answer. But yeah, whenever you have, for anybody who has questions like that, Legita is the person to get in touch with, and she's wonderful about answering those questions. Her goal is not to eliminate markets. Her goal is to get as many markets as possible. So I've found Legita to be very willing to work with us in circumstances so that everyone around the state has access to this program. And so she will work with you in any way possible that she can to still follow her guidelines, but to make sure as many markets as possible can accept these checks.
And Legita was planning to be on this call, but another meeting popped up that conflicts with it. But I know she's more than willing to answer if you email her, or either Becky or Mindy can walk you through your questions or refer you to Legita. I know Joe Ryan is with us. But you're more than welcome to contact Legita directly. So I appreciate Joe being on this webinar. Any other questions? We're at 1:02. If we're good, then we will thank both Becky and Mindy. And as a reminder, the webinar was recorded and it will be uploaded into our YouTube channel. So please share, if you know other market managers, tell them that this will be a resource available on the Indiana Farmers Market Community of Practice YouTube channel. We will be sharing the PowerPoint presentation, and we do have a quick evaluation of just